So in today's episode, I want to get this ultimate fast road ITB'd C20XE Nova running. However, we do have a bit of an issue. Now, I've already spent quite a lot of time stripping the original loom back, taking all the insulation off, connecting up the wires that need to be connected to make this vehicle run. So we need an ignition feed, earth, battery feed. Obviously it needs tacho and that. It doesn't need that, but we're going to connect it, coolant temperature sensor, all them kind of bits. Now, the DTA loom plugs in to what it needs basically. Every wire is marked up. So the injector wiring, for example, they're marked at 1 to 4. So you know exactly what you're doing. Coolant temperature sensor, crank sensor, the coil part, everything just clips up just nicely. So I connected everything up just quickly. I thought, let's see if it starts. First off, straight away, fuel pump is not running. So I figured, well, that's a bit of an issue. The fuel pump relay is connected. It's got all the power feeds and that, but it's not getting a trigger from the ECU to make the fuel pump kick in. So, bridge the fuel pump, beautiful. It's now popping and farting through the inlet manifold. So something clearly wasn't right with the ECU. Obviously it wasn't sparking or injecting at the right time for it to be firing back through the inlet. So I tried plugging my laptop in to have a look, and my laptop's really old, really slow. It kept crashing, kept causing me problems. Now, bearing in mind, I was sold this as plug and play by QED. They said, plug it all in, it will work. You could run it like that, but it advised you to tune it on a rolling road. So I kind of gave up with it. My laptop, like I say, wasn't working. Spoke to a mobile tuner, and he's come over and had a look at it. He came over to put the map on, and the map file was not on the USB supplied by QED. They said it was, but it wasn't. So we tried going on the website to see if we've got it. It should just be a basic, generic ITB map file for these C20XE engines. Should be able to put that on and it should start. Obviously, it still needs setting up perfectly on a rolling road, but it should start. Well, it doesn't have one. It's got a map on the ECU, but it's not the right one because it's doing everything wrong. So although we can't get it running, we can still do things to this car. So my plan is I'm going to basically wire it all up properly and get it ready for the rolling road the best I can. So I'm going to start by drilling a hole in the bulkhead for the loom to go through. So I've drilled the bulkhead there because it's out the way, and also the original ECU mounts there. So I can use the original bracket and it's all going to look nice and neat and nice and factory. So now this is drilled, I've also just filed the edges slightly just so the plug fits through. And I've fitted a grommet to this. It doesn't come with a grommet. So I can push this through the bulkhead, and then my plan, I'm going to fill this with sealant, and then tape the loom up like I already have done to start off with the cloth tape. It's going to look really nice. But yeah, I just want to fill that with sealant because I don't want it to get any water in. I want it to be as factory as possible. So this should just slide through here nicely now. Then I can start just fastening everything up properly. So the fuel pump relay fits very nicely there. So I'm just going to use this original bolt hole. Then I'm going to start taping this loom up a bit more. Now this doesn't actually need taping. I'm purely doing it just to make it look a bit neater. So I'm just looking how I'm going to do things. And basically these wires here, that's your main permanent 12 volt feed. And then you've got your fan pump relay wires. 2 of them are 12 volts. So I've looked in the loom. This is the factory loom. And that's a nice 12 volt feed there. It goes straight from the battery. So I'm going to run this loom down here. And then back up with the rest of the loom. And connect them there, I think. That way it just looks nice and neat, nice and tidy. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut these down a little bit. I'm going to put a plug on these so I can connect it up to this. So if we ever want to, we can remove it nicely. So to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to strip this right back, solder all the reds together, and add that to the end of it. And then it's simply just plug and play. So I'm using these really handy Irwin strippers. They make light work of insulation removal even on the thinnest wires. Once stripped, I twist the wires together and solder them up. Once cooled down, I slide over a piece of heat shrink and shrink it on with a heat gun. And then slide over the plug weather seal and use crimping pliers to crimp on the pins. These are proper non-insulated crimping pliers. These aren't like the normal red, blue and yellow ones you see on the market. The plug then clips over the pin and I use another pin to push the seal into place. I don't know, look professional. So now this end's done, it's time to move on to the other end. So the loom's going to tuck under here, and it's going to connect up here and kind of follow what's left of these wires. So I think I'm just going to cut up there to be safe. I cut the wire to length and repeat the process as before. I'm very passionate about neat wiring and find this part particularly therapeutic. Next I move on to the relay wiring. The 12 volt feeds of the wires are soldered together, but the trigger wires are still bare. The brown and blue controls the fan. As I'm using the standard Nova fan wiring, which I explained in the previous video, this won't be necessary, so I'll just heat shrink the end to make it safe and fold it over. I then connect the brown and purple to the fuel pump positive. Now on voxels, that's a red and blue wire. So that's the ECU 12 volt battery feeds, earth and fuel pump wire connected. Next up, dash and ignition wiring. So the yellow is the 12 volt from the ECU for the dash, and the brown is shift light. We don't need either of them, so I'm just going to put some heat shrink over the top, just to make them safe. Again, I use a heat gun to shrink it. You can use a blowtorch, but you need to be careful because too much heat will obviously make it melt. The white DTA wire needs connected into a 12 volt ignition feed. I used the original black wire to the coil. If you have a 1 litre Nova, this is not suitable, it's only 6 volt, but all other models have a decent 12 volt feed. Again, I build the plugs in the same way. I also soldered the 2 black ignition positives together. However, I did later find this wasn't required as it was just a piggyback for the original ignition amp. The green wire is the rev counter wire. Not all models have this, but this one did. This connects to the black wire on the DTA loom. I have no idea if this signal is going to be the same, but I'm sure we can tweak it somewhere. So believe it or not, that's all the hard wiring now done. Now I just need to strip down the original Nova loom and cut out and remove all the original ECU wiring. And this technically doesn't need to be done, but I just want to do it to make the engine bay look a bit cleaner. I cut each plug off one by one and then pull the wiring through the bulkhead into the interior. As you can probably see, I've trimmed this down quite a lot. There's quite a lot of wires removed. We've still got some of the ECU wires here. Looking at it, most of them are earths, etc., and a few dash wires, which we won't need. So they can be cut off. But until it's running, I'm going to leave it. This is some of the loom I've removed, as is all that. And I've been around and taped up all the loom, with the exception of this bit here. This is thinned down dramatically. We must have taken 20 wires out of here. As you can see, it's much neater. All fits well, as it should. Everything's got the tester tape on, which is nice cloth tape. I will do this bit once it's running, but for now, I want to leave it. Right, if I'm honest, I'm kind of running out of things to do on this car now. However, there is still one little thing. We haven't got a throttle cable, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to modify the existing 1.2 throttle cable and make it work for this application. So this has been quite a stressful video to film. I've been about 3 weeks making this, which is a lot longer than normal. Now, it should have been running 3 weeks ago, which is kind of what I promised you all, but it's, you know, I've been let down a little bit. The software's not on the ECU, various things, don't have the map, all these little problems. Not really my fault, it's just one of them things. So yeah, I am sorry I've let you down a little bit. However, hopefully soon it's going to be running anyway. I'm not going to commit a time, but hopefully soon we'll have it running. Right, let's crack on with the throttle cable. So that is the standard 1.2 injection cable. Now this end fits onto the throttle cable. There's a spring on the end, you can probably see, and it clips in. That goes for the bulkhead, and then this end will obviously attach to the throttle body. This slides down here underneath the battery area, goes for a grommet in the bulkhead. It needs to go to basically just to here and slide through, but I'm going to make this as short as possible, which should give it the maximum adjustment, just in case I cut it wrong. So the outer cable wants to be cut about here, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark that with a bit of tape. So then I need to cut the outer here. Now that's going to be a challenge, but we'll give it a go. Right, so we don't need that end. That did go on the original throttle body. So just to make it a bit easier, I'm going to cut this off so I can pull the inner cable out. I mean, I'm not going to catch it when I cut it, so let's go. And then we can cut it just here. All right, now all I need to do is cut this bit to length and put a nipple on it. So hopefully you can see that end is connected up, so it just clips on at the top, and that's where it comes through the bulkhead. That end's fed through there, and then this end just sits here, and that's the excess. Slide this through here, and that is where it needs to be cut and joined. So the original inner cable is coated in a plastic layer, so I'm just using some wire strippers just to carefully cut it and slide it off, because unfortunately the plastic layer is actually fouling the nipple. That's the plastic layer. Here's the nipple, and that locks off with grub screws. Now that fits, I just need to cut the end off. So that's it, that's as much as I can do for today. Hopefully the map file will come soon and we can get it running. But for now, we're going to wrap the video up. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more. See you later. Bye bye.